Welcome into another episode of the Voice of Camp Nathanael, here happening on the campus of Camp Nathanael. This is Lee Sharp hanging out with you, and I've got a couple of guests in here. I'm going to introduce them quick so that I'm not just the only one talking on this. I have William Gilbert.
Hello.
And I've got John Pope.
Hello.
And if you are unfamiliar, William, you do lots of things here.
I do a few things, yes.
He does a handful of things.
A handful of things, yeah.
Kind of like me. We both do a handful of things.
Just
we both work here full time. This is our whole life essentially.
Yes. We actually started a month after each other.
That's true. We did start
roughly that time.
That was in
4.5 years ago. Well, 2022. February 22 is when I started. This
was pre-flood.
You started after me or right after?
Right
before?
after.
Yeah.
Right after there.
Yeah.
I think Steven was the one who had started right before us.
He started in December of 21, and then I started February of 22.
There we
started
go.
March of 22 or April of 22 or something like that.
We're trying to remember dates. Anyway, John Pope is here with us. Hi, John.
Hello. How are you all?
Good.
Doing very well. Thanks.
So, John, we are recording this during our middle school week here at camp. This is our first middle school week happening here, and we've got a bunch of kids that are campers that are running around. I think we've got an in-between time here, in between different activities. That's why we were able to pull John in. John is our speaker this week, and so we wanted to come pick your brain and figure out what you've been talking about this week. I know, William, have you been able to sit in on the sessions?
Yeah, I've sat on all of them, yeah.
Oh, you sat on, okay. I've only been able to sit in on one so far. So, John, this is me trying to catch up. So that I feel like I know what you've been going through with the campers. But let's start with an introduction here. Okay. So, John, where are you from?
So that's a complicated question because I'm a Kentucky boy through and through. So I grew up in Somerset, Kentucky, which is about 2 hours west of here, and moved away for college for 4 years at Union University in Jackson, Tennessee. And then came back for my master's degree at Southern Seminary in Louisville after I got married. And then we lived in Frankfort, Kentucky for a while. But I'm coming here from Paris, Tennessee, which is just south of Murray, Kentucky, for those of you who know where that is. And I've been pastoring at Spring Hill Baptist Church there for almost 3 years. It'll be 3 years this November. Will mark my first Sunday there.
Okay.
Yeah, but as the saying goes, you can take the boy out of Kentucky, but you can't take the Kentucky out of the boy. So it's always a special time when I get to come back to my home turf. And my dad is from Knox County, and so he's a mountain kid. Yeah. So it's been good to be here. But that's a little bit about me.
I was drawing the map in my head as you were doing that. It's just kind of a zigzag between Kentucky and Tennessee.
I like what you said about I can't repeat the phrase very well, but I'm from Illinois, near Chicago, and you can't take Chicago out of me, so I get it. But I love it down here, don't get me wrong. I love being here, but I love Chicago as well.
He chose to be here.
I chose to be here.
Yeah, that's right.
So, John, we've got a little bit of the backstory. I want to ask, and you've been on the podcast before, so you've answered all of these questions before. And if you are listening to this and you're like, oh, yeah, we've heard this stuff before. But if you're a new listener, you're going to have to flip back through quite a few episodes in order to get back to John Pope again. So I'll go on and ask the question here. How did you get connected to camp?
Yeah.
Because admittedly, we've got Knox, which is pretty close.
Yeah.
But usually camp, there's usually a story behind how you get connected to camp, simply because it's not the kind of place like, oh, I was just driving down the road and ran out of gas.
That's right.
So there's usually more to it than.
Yeah, it's honestly kind of crazy because, I didn't grow up that far away, but I never heard about Camp Nathanael growing up. And the way, ironically, I got here was through Tennessee. So basically, I went to Union, was down there for 4 years, built good relationships at the university there, still a very special place to me. But after I went to seminary in Louisville, one of my former professors, his brother pastors in Frankfort, Kentucky at Bell Point Baptist Church. And to make a super long story short, he connected with me, and I came on staff there as associate pastor, and those were sweet years. I was there almost 4 years. But his kids came to Camp Nathanael, and now, I mean, this summer there's 4 of them working, I think. Am I doing my math correct?
All right, who's the 4?
So
we can name drop here.
Yeah,
Who's this 4 here?
So Ellie and Judson,
Oh.
Hannah and Isaiah Van Ness. Their dad Scott pastored with him, and here's the crazy connection. This is where it gets
shout out
really
to all the
weird.
Van Nest family.
Yes, yeah, the Van Nesters. So we were at Bell Point, and Ellie was working here, and she had gone and hung out with some of her friends that she worked with, and this was not during the summer, so this was like during the fall or something.
Sure.
And said, yeah, we're going and staying with the camp director at his house with all the staff, and she started describing who they were, and I was like, man, that sounds familiar. And I said, what's the name of the guy who's the camp director? And she said, Matt Schwinke. And I just kind of made a face, and she looked at me like, oh, did I do something wrong? You know, what did I say? And here's what's crazy. They were working at the camp, and he taught at my high school in Somerset many years ago. So you have all these worlds converging. and,
crashing into each other.
And so reconnected with him, and they invited me to come speak in 2022, and that was my first on-campus interaction with Camp Nathanael. And I've been here every year since to speak except for 2024 because we welcomed my firstborn, and it just didn't work out schedule-wise.
So in theory, we all got connected in 22.
I was just wondering if you and I were thinking the same thing. We all started in 22.
Yeah.
Apparently, we all of us at this table right now
It's pretty wild.
had the official start. Now, we've all had connections in the past, but
True.
Obviously, you know, with even going back to high school there are connections that
And beyond.
whether we realized or not that camp has
No.
been influencing. There's also a small little testament there to the summer staff that if you've ever thought about coming and working, you're in high school, you're in college, and you're thinking, maybe I would want to come work at camp, or maybe you're one of the campers and you're listening to this, or you're one of the parents of the campers and you realize, hey, my kid could maybe go do that. That's something that maybe they would be interested in doing. Know that when they're making friends, it's not just like, oh yeah, this is my friend from camp. People are, I know for a fact that they hang out with each other outside of just camp. It's not just a relationship that's just like, oh yeah, we were all coworkers during the summer and then we forget about each other the rest of the year.
Right.
There's some really deep friendships that are formed here happening at camp.
And marriages.
I was just going to say,
And
some
marriages, too.
Yes, a whole bunch of marriages.
There's quite a few people that are married now that started
And
as
there's another one coming up very soon.
campers and
Actually,
summer
two-
staff.
2 are coming up.
Yeah, I was going to
Yeah.
say there's two that I know of.
Is that a small plug there for finding? There's no guarantees there. We can't make any guarantees, but you might meet some people that are on the same path as you. So we'll throw that out there for everybody. So John, the main reason that I wanted to pull you is you've been doing a lot of sessions this week, which is going to be different than I would say the normal pastor sort of thing, where normally it's like, hey, you're teaching on maybe 2 or 3 times a week, to where how many times are you teaching this week?
So tonight will be the last of 5 messages. So preach Sunday night through Thursday night.
So that's Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So that's just a lot of prep work.
Yes.
And it allows you to connect things in a way that maybe the week in, week out sort of sermon outline you can't, because you've got everybody and it's like, hey guys, I'm going to see you tomorrow and we're going to follow up on this.
Yeah.
We also pulled him in to do some reffing for some basketball games. I don't think he knew he was going to do that until, I don't even know when he found out. He could tell us that, but he also
this morning at breakfast.
I think you're in the drama tonight too. Nobody will know that until they hear. I mean, it'll be after the fact.
I get to participate in the skit. I only have 3 lines. But
Okay.
I do get to.
You got the 3, you got them down?
We were debatable whether he was going to get 3 or 2. We weren't sure if he was going to remember them. Actually, I had nothing to do with it, truthfully, but.
So you got to do some ref. All right. Have you got to participate in any of the other camp games?
Yeah. So this week,
Do you have a favorite?
Well, this week was different than years past because typically I would try to follow around the campers to different activities just to spend time with them, get to know them better, because Camp Nathanael's different than, say, if you were preaching at a big church camp where you've got hundreds of kids.
Yeah.
You can't really get to know them meaningfully.
Yeah.
Here we're talking about, a couple scores of kids, but you can really get to know them. And it's been a privilege to learn some of their stories. And that activity time is helpful for that. But twice a day, every day except today, I've been a judge in the minced competition, which is like chopped, but
yeah, we have a cooking competition.
Yeah.
For during middle school week. So you got to picture middle school camp, like middle school age, are going to try and pull some fancy moves in the kitchen here to be able to cook up some stuff.
You're not sure if you want to eat what they've made.
Yes.
They do. I've heard they do a pretty good job.
Yeah, they had me judge one year, and some of the food that I was like, I wasn't sure if I really wanted to try.
Little too creative.
Listen, they did a good job this week because some of the ingredients, how do I fit these things together? I don't know how I'm going to do that, and they did pretty well. And it was strange though. The same groups won almost every day. And they all are on a level playing field. They find out the ingredients at the same time. They all have the same amount of time to prepare and cook their dish. So I did that. So I got to know those kids really well. And then today I reffed some of the basketball games, which might have been counterproductive on some levels.
That's why we have you do it, because you'll be leaving in a couple
of
days.
That's right.
We get some very competitive people coming here to and it's a simple basketball game, and yet
hopefully they'll.
I don't know if the kids call it simple, but
it was an existential crisis for some of them, but hopefully they'll be okay.
Life and death there, right?
So that's what I've been doing this week to get to know them, and then meal times, just going around and talking to them. Yeah.
So what have you been teaching this week?
Yes. So the theme this year is the quest, but it's all, honestly, it might be my favorite theme of all the years I've come, and here's why. I think the Pilgrim's Progress, which is kind of the structure for how the week has gone, is a wonderful book. I believe this is still accurate. In the English language, it is the second most published or purchased book in the English language outside of the Bible. It's such a widespread in its effect all over the world. It's ministered to so many different people. And so what I've tried to do is bring in the biblical themes from the book and show how, hey, we're following the Pilgrim's Progress during the drama section and in some of their devotionals that they have every day. But I'm trying to show them how Bunyan, who wrote Pilgrim's Progress, was pulling on Scripture. So the way I've loosely tried to complement their daily devotionals. Yeah. But also supplement the things, because they can't put everything in those devotionals. So the first night we began with what we might call first order stuff when it comes to following Jesus. And from Matthew chapter 16, we talked about counting the cost of following Jesus. And, Jesus says in those verses, if anyone would come after me, let him deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. And whoever would lose his life would find it. Is what the message he gives there. And he says, what would it profit you to gain the whole world but to lose your soul? So I challenge them. Sometimes we give kids a very flowery understanding of the Christian faith, and there's no cost in how we talk about it. And Jesus very clearly taught us that being a Christian is going to cost you in this life. It will. They hated him. They're going to hate his disciples. And so I wanted to be honest with them about that. And yet, when you compare that with what else Jesus says in those verses, compared to the cost of not following Jesus, it really is a no-brainer decision to follow Jesus. So I tried to make that clear and say, hey, we're talking about this journey and following Jesus. We're making our way to the celestial city. Count the cost, both these costs, before you enter the narrow pathway. And then night number 2, we went to Ephesians chapter 2 and a spectrum of other texts as well. So these sermons, they were expositional, but I was also hopping around different places. And the main thing I wanted to teach them there right on the front end of the week, so this was Monday night, was to make sure they understand the role of grace in the Christian life, because there's an error that many make, and it's very easy for even people who've been Christians many, many years to make, which is, okay, I got saved by grace. I'm justified by grace through faith on the finished work of Christ alone. But we can deceive ourselves in thinking, okay, now I've got to work to keep myself, right? He saved me. Now I've got to, it's all on me. And I pleaded with the kids based on those texts to see, no. You are saved by grace, justified by grace. But also, all these commands that Jesus gives to follow him, to persevere in the faith, those are by his grace too. You can only endure through his empowering grace. So Paul will say in Philippians, I believe, work out your salvation with fear and trembling. Why? For it is God who works in you, both to will and to work for his good pleasure. Yeah. And so I stress that to them. And then Wednesday night was a harder message, and even the kids said the skit last night was tougher.
It was deep.
It was deep because if you've read Pilgrim's Progress, Christian, the main character, is journeying onto the celestial city, and has a partner with him, and named Faithful. And to make a long story short, Faithful ends up losing his life because of his faithfulness to Jesus. That he loses his life because he refused to bow the knee to worldly powers. And it's a powerful scene. It
was very powerful.
I wanted to give these, I didn't want to scare them, but I wanted to give them a realistic picture of God's protection. So we looked at 1 Peter 5, verse 8 specifically. And I said, guys, you have a protector in heaven because you have an enemy. And I wanted them to know that, hey, Satan is real. Like, this isn't just some psychological thing that we make up.
This isn't the boogeyman that hides under the whatever.
Right. He's a real spiritual being, and his desire is to supplant God, to take the glory that God deserves, and he hates all mankind. He does not want your good. And so Peter says, be sober-minded, be watchful. The devil is roaming around like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. And he says, resist him, standing firm in the faith. And I implored with them, I said, guys, Satan only has one weapon that will kill your soul every time. He only has one flaming dart, as the scripture says, that he can fling at you, and it hits the target every time, and that's unforgiven sin. Your unforgiven sin, he can bring it before God and accuse you, and you staying guilty, which is why Peter says, resist him, standing firm in the faith, in your faith, because he knows that faith in Jesus does away with our sin. It brings us forgiveness. So I said to them, guys, Satan brings all sorts of stuff against you, but if you're trusting in Jesus, you're turning away from your sins, you can say, yes, I'm guilty of all those things. I've done all those things, but Jesus died for me. He has cleansed me, and I'm forgiven. He is powerless if we have Christ. So, it was an easy opportunity to just plead with them to come to Christ. Look to him. Don't look to yourself. Oh, I skipped over Hebrews 12. That was Wednesday night. I just described, I think. No, that was Tuesday night. What you were talking
about was last night, yeah.
Wednesday night. In between those, sorry, getting cut off. I'll be really quick here. Is we looked at Hebrews 12, verse 1 and following. And he's talking, the writer of Hebrews there is using race analogy, like you're running a race, like an athlete. And I just walked through that and said, guys, if we're going to endure in faith, we must realize that we're not alone. Verse 1, he says, since we're surrounded by such a cloud of witnesses. Secondly, if we're going to endure in faith, we must put off sin. He says, lay aside every weight and hindrance and the sin which clings so closely, and then to run with endurance. We must run for the long haul. And then lastly, I said, you got to look to your champion. We look to Jesus. So we're going to make mistakes. You can't look to yourself. You got to look to him. And then tonight, lastly, we're going to look at the theme verse, which is Hebrews 13:14. Let us go to Jesus outside the camp, for here we have no lasting city, but we seek the city that is to come. And I'm just going to plead with them simply to say, being a Christian is going to make you look different and weird, and you'll be made fun of by worldly peers. But it's okay. Jesus went outside the camp and suffered shame for us. We can do the same because we're living for a world that's to come. Heaven is in front of us, and it can never be taken away. And it'll just give them a last opportunity to really think about, hey, the saying goes, you're so heavenly minded, you're no earthly good. I really want them to ask the question, am I so earthly minded, I'm no heavenly good? I want them to think about heaven. So anyway,
and this is the Hilltop Chapel as well.
Correct,
so for all of our past campers that are listening, that's the message they're going to be getting as we're recording this tonight.
Right.
To be able to fix their eyes.
Last night one thing there's a lot of things you said that I appreciate, but in the very beginning of your message, you were talking about how, Satan is going after us every month, 12 months a month.
Yeah.
The way you started, it made it sound like, well, it's just certain times, but then you're like, well, 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, and he broke it down so that it just becomes more and more like Satan doesn't take a nap. He doesn't rest. He doesn't hey, I'll let you go for a couple weeks and just you can have it. No, he's constantly working and trying to find ways to exploit us and make us sin and stuff. And so, but one thing I'm not a big Google guy in a sense, but I Googled the thing about the Pilgrim's Progress, and sure enough, it says that it is the second most sold book in history to the Bible.
So that still holds true.
Which is crazy.
I knew that was true several years ago, but I didn't know if that had changed or not. Which, if you think about that, that is an amazing statement. So I would say, Christian out there listening to this, go read Pilgrim's Progress.
Yeah,
it's the second best-selling book for a reason.
It's interesting, too, that one of the young ladies who now works with us, when she was raised here, her parents are missionaries here, and she at one time got a job at Walmart. And I heard the story that when her first day of training, they told her the three most things that they sell at Walmart here in Hazard. And number one was, well, they didn't say in order, but they said they sell more Mountain Dew than any other Walmart in the world. More Little Debbie snack cakes than anywhere in the world, and they sell the most Bibles of any Walmart in the world at the one in Hazard. That was maybe 12 years ago, but it might still be the same. I don't know, but it's just an interesting fact.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So we really appreciate you, John. Yeah, thank you for coming in and for talking with the campers this week.
Thanks for taking time out from your pastoring job.
Yeah, it's a privilege.
I've heard some of the questions as different campers are going around, because they're asking you are provoking questions in them, and getting their minds to think about them and their life and sin and Jesus. And
I got one other thing I meant to say too, and I don't know if
we appreciate
if you guys heard this last night, but one of the things we do for middle school week is one of the nights we'll have an 8th grade ice cream social, and we talked to them about coming to work at camp, and our camp director Austin was leading that, and one of the young men that's just basically the first time he's come here, and I was looking for him at chapel. I'm like, I don't see him anywhere. I'm like, did he go home? And then I saw him outside. He was talking to one of our counselors, and then he came into the social thing, and one of the kids is like, where you been? He goes, I was busy talking to, I don't know, name names, and then I got saved.
Yeah, praise God.
So and he hugged me, and I hugged him, and it was just really cool. And so I don't know what
and those
discussion,
are
but those
are I think that's a good note to end on there.
Yeah.
Because really that's one of, if not the biggest reason that we do everything here at camp is for people to learn about Jesus and to give their lives to him. And
amen. I agree.
Really, I'll wrap up on that note there. By the time this is premiering, we'll probably have some more events that are coming up. I would check onto campnathanael.org. We've got a list of different events that are going to be happening soon. If this is later in the summer, we may still have some summer stuff happening, but I know we've got a lot of stuff that's going to be coming up in the fall. And so we've got a lot of activities. Keep in mind, camp is not just camp.
It's not just for kids anymore.
There's a lot more happening here for the whole family, for men, women, grown adults.
Our first Fall Fest coming up.
Yep, we've got some family activities that we're going to be doing just to help get everybody here. So if you're listening to this, hop on to campnathanael.org. You'll get some more events there, and we'll hopefully see some of y'all there. Yes. And if you coming to some of those events because you hear us here on the podcast, please let us know, because I can see numbers of like, oh yeah, people are listening, but that's just a number on a screen. I know there's an actual person behind that, so let us know that you're the one listening, because it's nice to. You are more than just, obviously you're more than just a number on a screen. Correct. But I got to be able to connect the dots here and actually meet some of you. So if you're coming because of that, by all means, let us know. Again, John, thank you so much for jumping in with us, taking some time. William, thanks for jumping in.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Jumped in last minute here. And guys, we'll hang out with you again in a couple of weeks.